Hello, welcome to AmassGames. So this is now inside the top 200. There will actually be the 200th position. Ignore the fact that it's 199 coming next. This will be the top 200 and the top 25 in this occasion, and for this particular list of games that I think are the best of all time, the games I most want to play at this current moment. And this does include expansions and promos, because ultimately if I think they are better than the original, then I'd rather obviously play it with them. So let's crack on, and just to let you know, please subscribe, please like, lets me know you enjoy the video, and you'll catch the rest in the series. Hit the notification bell on all this as well as checking out the comments, and I'll reply straight away if you're happy to put something in there, and check out the descriptions for any updates. Okay, so in at number 200 we have checkers, or drafts as I know it as. Now, drafts and checkers, it's an interesting one because, and apologies for having this notification that literally has just appeared since I went live, and the reason why I like this game is just it is solvable, and some people might like that. There are lots of variants to it as well, which I do enjoy. I like tried out Brazilian checkers last year, as well as international checkers, Russian checkers, and yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I think in a game which typically does take under the time it takes, 30 minutes, trying to capture your opponent's pieces and be like the last person standing, I think it's a decent game. And I think compared to other games, like I say, which are lower down that list, shall we say, in terms of close to say 250, or obviously not even in the top 250, I think this is something that's worth playing. I think it's not a bad game. I think the reason why people dislike it on this particular website, it's an American website, having some luck in a game can be preferable, because it means obviously the best player isn't just going to win. It's down to a bit of, it's not just fate, and obviously not purely skill. But abstract strategies don't necessarily come highly rated, and for that reason I can see why it's not in everyone's cup of tea. So, in the next one up is, of course, Carcassonne. Carcassonne is of SPIEL.digital's winner from 2000, well, the year 2000, and there have been many versions of it. There are tons of expansions. I know somebody who has 30. I know someone else who's got 26 and 24, and you have a nice wooden box. And in this particular game, you're going to be placing out tiles. There are 72 tiles. And unfortunately, some people play it a lot and start almost card counting and saying, well, what's remaining? For example, you can have corner pieces. If they know a certain shape, then they can choose to say, right, okay, well, I know there's one of those left in the game. I haven't got it. I need to make sure they can't place it in a good place. You'll get points based on having out your meeples. It's the first game where the word meeple came from. On a road or a highwayman, you can have them in fields potentially, which I think is kind of an optional rule, or you can choose to ultimately own what's in a castle. So let me show you what a castle looks like. So this particular one is called the River. It's the first kind of expansion that came with the game that is actually just part of the game now these days, the Z-Man edition, since Asmodee bought them. And yes, you're trying to ultimately take some shapes here, and if you have the majority in this zone, then you're going to claim the points here. Anything here with a shield is worth double points. So you get point, 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 2 points, 2 points, 1.1 points, if you've got the most there. Now, something to be aware of is if you go here, somebody else can't go next to you. It's a great game. Like I said, I really enjoy playing it, and this in particular is the river version. What that has is these kind of river tiles, and it basically allows the game to be a bit more sprawling, shall we say. So that is Carcassonne, the River. As you can see, it does default back to just calling it Carcassonne. In next, we have another game involving placing down workers, like in Carcassonne, and the difference with Carcassonne is, yeah, like this game too, you literally have a finite amount. In Carcassonne, you have 9, and you've got to pretty much wait. I believe it's 9. In Manhattan Project 2, Minutes to Midnight, the sequel to the Manhattan Project, the reason why I prefer this one is actually the fact that the Manhattan Project, half the players could well actually have a score of 0, not even had a chance to score. Gorgeous artwork, as you can see down here, and a game that's very popular, I believe, on Kickstarter. They've pretty much all their games on Kickstarter. And in this particular game, you start off with 3 or 4, I think it's typically 4 workers, and you might expand that out to getting maybe 9. And you're dealing, of course, with this kind of nuclear threat, and you're trying to maybe place down some nuclear submarines, play somewhere else. Lovely artwork. A lot of a heavier game, and it does take a bit of time, but I really enjoyed it. I thought these guys that I play with, I play this game a lot. Thankfully, I didn't come last, and a couple of times I played it, I was middling. I think I came second and third in a couple of games. Very much enjoyed it though, and more than happy to play it again. Fantastic Park. Now there's a game that I have reviewed called Hue, so please just type in AmassGames and Hue, look that game up. But this is a very similar game that came out around the same time by Brett J. Gilbert, who showed me this game personally, and I had a chance to play it and loved it. As you can see, it's hardly been noticed, unfortunately, but it's a game whereby it's kind of an area control game, set collection, tile placement, and you're trying to build up a board and ultimately place out these different kinds of tiles and almost, you could almost say, bid with them to try and have a control as to what's going on. So we'll just go back to that front page. Unfortunately, again, it's a game I'd love to play more of. Yeah, what you're trying to do is you're going to start with a certain amount of these tiles, and it's basically whatever you have left of, you're trying to score what you have in your hand, but unless you then play out some of these cards, you can't score them well. So if you've got a load of purples, you will score purple, you might want to score purple, but you have to play some purples down. So it's a bit of a domino style game, as it states here, because what you need to be aware of is you're playing out some of these pieces, and it's a shame I'm not gesticulating to show what I mean, because you're giving up what you could be scoring. So that's a nice kind of wonky idea, but basically what you're going to have left is what you're going to be scoring. So that's the crucial difference. That's compared to more linear games, and it's something to be aware of. So up next we have Nations. This is a game I played on someone's 49th birthday and a great time playing. It's a very mean game. You constantly have to fight to make sure you have enough resources, typically food amongst other things. And in this instance, there was a guy who played who's called Will, who just made sure that everyone was starving. He just triggered stuff that made sure that there was always starving. So yeah, very tricky. I do not recommend Nations the Dice game. I do not like it much. It is similar, but I much prefer this full-blown version. It's interesting. It says it takes 40 minutes to play per player. Very precise. It's a very nice game. It's kind of this heavy Euro worker placement game. As you can see, it's a fair duration going on there. And just to show you this designer, he has done a fair few other games as well. Cool. So this obviously is that game that, of course, I'd highly recommend. Now, Catan, the 1995 Game of the Year SPIEL.digital winner. So the way it wins is the fact that it deals with, what's the best family-friendly game, easy to teach, easy to learn. Interesting. The artwork here is the same guy who does Freedom and Freeze games. So this particular is the 5 to 6 player expansion. I do not recommend playing Catan 5 to 6 player because it takes a long time, but I do recommend it for one reason alone, and that is you can play Catan in 20 minutes. Yes, if you have 2 sets of dice, you're rolling at the same time, you're bidding with everyone else, and it becomes like this fantastic Wall Street-like ability to just say, "Oh, I'll deal with you. Do you want to deal with me? Yeah." And you're trying to play before the other pair of sets of dice gets to you. That's where you're actually doing a great job. I don't know why I only give it 6. I think it's good, but particularly play the variant I say, the one that I've either heard someone mention or we just happened to give it a go. It's brilliant. 20 minutes to play a game like this 3x game, nothing really comes close. It's that good. So in terms of what comes close, I guess it has to be this one. It's the first full-on proper expansion for Carcassonne, Inns and Cathedrals. You can have various inns over here, and what's interesting is you can have pieces. I don't know what on earth they have this massive shadow for. It does look quite cool, the way that is really cool. Is the fact that you have these square pieces, which is a complete building area. If you chuck that down to destroy an opponent's, I don't know, castle they're trying to control, they're not going to complete it. If you can't complete this thing, you don't get double the amount of points for each tile. So that's a really good way of actually keeping an eye on someone who's storming ahead with the lead, say. So there are other expansions for Carcassonne. I've played some, and I know, like I said, somebody's got all 30 expansions. It takes them 6.5 hours to play, and they'll play it in a garage. Up next, the first Exit game I played. It wasn't actually even the first time this particular box of the Gammon had been played. There were some folds in the game, but I very much enjoyed it. I was very impressed by some of my favourite designers, Inco and Marcus Brandt. Probably definitely my favourite married couple who are designers, at least. There aren't even that many. I like the art as well. It's very nice. It's a nice mid-range difficulty as well. And I highly recommend, if you've never played an unlock or an escape room game, this is the one to start off with. It's brilliant. It takes about an hour. Having to get a really good score on it too, so I was very happy with that too. and it's led to me playing a number of others and even buying one recently again. Alchemists. Now, this is a heavy game. It's one of the heaviest games I've played. It doesn't feel that heavy, to be honest. It's not that difficult. I've played it a few times, as you can see, and this is an expansion of Alchemist. So an already heavy game, and then you're dealing with an expansion. Yes, there's a huge amount to understand and play with. I happen to have done quite well when I play with it. I don't know. It's a deduction game, crucially. You're trying to use a kind of QR reader app to ultimately decide what kind of potions you're trying to feed, and it chucks in various different expansions and modular opportunities you can play with alchemists. Extremely highly rated game. It's CGE games for a start aren't necessarily for the faint-hearted. It takes a fair amount to go to them. This one I felt not particularly complex in comparison, though, to be honest, but it's a very interesting idea and it works very well. Little else to say, really. I think it's a decent game, and it's something that I highly recommend you check out. 110 is the highest rated game of all time on the website for boardgamegeek, so I think I mirror quite strongly with that. A promo. So this is a promo that came with the Deutsche Spielpreis in 2018 from Pegasus Spieler and Frosted Games, and this particular tile you can use alongside the game Altiplano, specifically with the Traveller. Although I always play Altiplano, tend to play the Traveller too. Altiplano is growing on me. I tend to only kind of give it 7 out of 10, but it's kind of growing on me. It's this engine building game, and it does kind of work for me too. And yeah, it just gives you a few more opportunities. You basically can activate this tile to get various abilities. In this instance, if we just zoom in a bit, what you could be doing is getting new abilities for your alpaca tile, involving the Traveller to move. The alpaca movement isn't fantastic, in my opinion, but what you can be doing is getting more pieces, and that alpaca, as you may know from the game, is quite difficult to get. So there it is. I only give it a 7 out of 10. And on to the next game, Seventh Continent. Massively popular when it came out. Really highly rated. There are other games that have come out since which are very similar. I think have superseded Seventh Continent. I've only played one mission, to be honest, and it was very nice. A bit clunkiness, very heavy, a brick to carry around, but still very enjoyable. Lots of playtime, lots to remember, and this bizarre 1,000-minute playing time as well. So yeah, interesting game where exploring, deciding where you want to go, and then making another decision. And for some reason, it looks like we've got Chuck Norris in here too. Did not know he was in here. Artemis Project. So this is a game which I was kindly given by Grand Gamers Guild, and this is a worker placement game involving kind of upgrading your pieces. I actually had played it before. I played the deluxe edition, which I highly recommend. And yes, you're trying to explore, you're trying to go underground and above ground, terraforming, and looking to get the best score you can by using dice. Very much like Alien Frontiers. In fact, there is the owner of Grand Gamers Guild, Mark Spector, and you're choosing to ultimately, see what you can do with the dice, see if you can stop other people doing it, and again, using certain people to meet certain objectives. You have pioneers, which I think the fact that they're not painted, I don't know why, but having this kind of nude, non-paintedness threw me off a bit. There's this shuttle that you can create to have these meeples fall out of, which I don't think is necessary. I don't see people bother with that. But it's very nice. I know there's an expansion, and I haven't tried it out, but very much looking forward to Garudento coming out in 2020 by Grand Gamers Guild. So Power Grid. Power Grid is a hugely popular game. It's like 33rd highest rated game of all time. Freedom and Freeze, I mentioned the Harold Lasky a second ago. Lysique. And this is the deluxe edition. Good things and bad things about the deluxe edition. The pieces are better. They don't roll around. They're hexagonal, so it's less easy to lose and maintain and keep on a board because there are quite a few fiddly pieces to a degree. The downside is the art. I don't like the art on the cards. I don't know why. It just does not really grip for me. But the maps, I like all the different maps. I do like the negotiation games, and I don't know. Like I said, I'm not going to blow my own orchestra. I do better at this game than some other games, but it's a game I enjoy. It's been very tight and close, but I've enjoyed all the Power Grid maps so far. As you can see, 38th, it's dropped a bit, but this is another Freedom and Freeze game on my list. And so, let's move on. One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak. So we talked about Alien, and now we have Daybreak, the first sequel to One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and it chucks in a bunch of characters. Not much more else to say about this game, especially if you already know the original. This is the one you really want to get with it. There's no really difference, to be honest, but basically it allows you to just not do nothing, and that's the key difference that I really like about the game. Everyone can play an active role. So Airlines Europe, this is a game that's basically been a reimplementation of Ticket to Ride by the designer. I really like this edition. It took a while to grow on me, but what I quite like is the fact that, yeah, you're various parts of the world, you have these planes, and you're trying to get to certain locations. It's not exactly the same as Ticket to Ride, but if you like Ticket to Ride, I think it's a nice variant, you might want to call it. You can't do Ticket to Ride. There was another game called Union Pacific. It's another game which basically this reimplements, which I don't recommend. I don't like it as much, but yeah, I like this game. It has some stock going on, so trying to say where you want things to go, and that's the Union Pacific. So there it is. That came out before Ticket to Ride. On to Lost Cities. Now this is a really popular two-player game, but this is the board game. Playing well, it can play 2 to 4, but as you can see, lots of people are probably saying just play the other game as a 2. This one you can play as 3 to 4. So not much difference to if you want to play Lost Cities. The crucial difference is when you're playing out cards, which maybe Lost Cities is in here, you'll notice that you're going to go out on this tableau and trying to prove where you're going. So a lot more of the information I feel is visible, a lot more of the interaction. I have no idea why they're calling it Keltis though. This is really odd. I did not know that it was reimplemented by, well, that was a Spiel.digital winning game, which is very strange because I believe it won Spiel.digital, yeah, in a year when it shouldn't really have won, because there were many other potential winners that year that people felt it should have won. I mean, we did have Agricola win as well, but that is obviously in that higher category. So, yep, that has been a game which were implemented. Now, Great Western Trail. This is a growing game that has grown on me quite a bit. Alexander Fist is one of my favourite designers of all time, probably top 3 if not top 5. And as much as I like this game, I didn't have a great time the first time. When I play a game, I think to myself, right, I won't focus on one particular part of the game. Let's just not, get over confused with all the rules. Let me just think about a couple of things. In this particular game, I chose not to focus on cows, which unfortunately are a pretty big part of the game, and I didn't do that well. It's won many, many awards, and it's very popular. I've no interest in playing the expansions, to be honest. Doesn't mean I don't want to, but yeah, I've no interest and inclination. Nearly bought it many times. There's the Egert Spiel edition, there's the Pegasus Spieler edition as well. Nice artwork too. Interestingly, Alexander Pfister did the art partially as well. And there's some interesting lawsuits I've seen whereby one company had the rights, but they can't use the same art, and this other company used 2 similar art. So it's a rondel game. You're going round and you're looking to be aware of where you are on the track to get more stuff. You're looking to improve your engineers, get your cowboys to ranch more, get more money to move farther up the tracks, and ultimately be the best person possible to win the game. Dinosaur Island Totally Liquid. So it's an expansion for Dinosaur Island. Fine game, Dinosaur Island. This adds a whole bunch of stuff. This is a Kickstarter kind of pimped out edition, shall we say, by Jonathan Gilmour and Brian Lewis. They're the key guys behind Pandasaurus Games. And yeah, let's take a look at some of these pictures. I've just got a nice front cover box, a whole bunch of new stuff. But yeah, Dinosaur Island I've played on short, medium, and long mode. Got different mats as well, and I've played short, medium, and long in a day. I've played every single board. The boards are actually all the same. Unlocks a few more abilities, gives you different meeples, not just one standard type of meeple, which is very nice. And it gives you a lot more range of what you can really be playing. So categories. This is a party game. It's a real-time game where ultimately everyone's going to call out a letter or something, and you're going to write down those words to do that letter, and then you're going to compare your answer with everyone else's. If you have a different answer, then you're going to gain some points. That's it. I found it's quite an interesting, fun, silly little game. Trouble is, of course, yeah, people know B for B or B for Beast or something like that. So I can see why the rating isn't as high as other things out there. Okay, So undo, we have an undo game in this series. This particular one is higher than the other one I mentioned earlier, such as 600 seconds. This is in that second trilogy, and it was the second one I played in the trilogy actually, even though it was actually the first one released, I think. And it's by Pegasus Spieler. And basically, this woman is falling from a plane that's burst on flames, and she's smiling to herself, and then realizing this parachute doesn't open, and she dies. So that's just written on the back of the box. And now it's your turn to undo Weaving Fate anew and basically rewrite her fate by making her not die and hopefully live a better life. So what on earth is this about? Well, yeah, you need to look at some cards, decide where you want to go, what you want to be doing, and then see if you can win the game and you obviously get a good score. So we talked about, obviously, sometimes you get a game here which is an expansion or a promo. I just want to say, given some games out there, I would rather play Carcassonne the River. I'd rather play Carcassonne into Cathedrals. In this case, I'd rather play Carcassonne. I'd actually rather play it than those other two, but I'd still rather play those two games than some other games, like Undo 600 Seconds, say. And yeah, the original Carcassonne is... I've hardly played the original Carcassonne, to be honest, in a way. It's always played with the river, but only logs as one type on here. And like everything I've mentioned already, I just think it's a really good game. Kung Fu Panda, the board game. So, this is a cooperative game. It's a racing game. It's very much like Magic Maze. It's very cleverly done. Massively surprised by this game. I still haven't finished it. There's 9 levels. I've played all but 1, I believe. And it's a lot of fun. 2 to 4 players. I play it with any player count. I don't mind. It takes a few minutes to set up, and it's a very swift game. Yeah, you can play it in 10 minutes, typically half an hour, and with a bit of setup, let's say 40 minutes. Nice pieces, nice, lovely artwork, nice levels. I like what you're meant to be doing, and ultimately you're racing around this board trying to get from one place to another. I've only ever played as Poe so far, so I look forward to trying out the other characters. And yeah, you're using different abilities to get from space to space to, yeah, get the best thing you can. This was a really nice surprise game. I was really surprised by it, really liked it a lot. Now, Love Letter, very interesting game. Stakes 2 to 4, definitely 3 or 4 player game. Don't know, I can't really see it being a 2, to be honest. And loads of other games I've played, which I've played, I like a lot. I like Letter to Santa, I like Kano Factory. I've played 5 or 6 editions. Fair amount of plays as well. And it's a game whereby you're looking to kind of look at some cards and say, I want to play this card, and when do you want to play this card? And yes, I'm not surprised it was nominated for Game of the Year. He hasn't come close, he hasn't made a better game, but it's definitely a game that I highly recommend, and it's definitely something I recommend you check out. Like I said, he's made some other games. I've even played Love Letter Premium, which basically combines 2 decks. And yeah, highly recommend it if you haven't already. Great short filler game. Shards of Infinity. I've only played this once. This is a kind of cooperative kind of deck building game, fighting a monster. Very similar to, I guess, Aeon's End and games such as Sentinel's Multiverse. But very much enjoyed it. This is a lovely experience, swift to play, and enjoyable. I say it's cooperative. It's not cooperative. You're actually fighting against your opponents and just trying to bring their health down to 0. And very much enjoyed it. Shadows of Brimstone, so City of the Ancients. This is basically, when you talk about Gloomhaven, there's a lot of people say, well, what about Descent, which is basically Star Wars Imperial Assault, aka Descent. Also, there's Shadows of Brimstone. I think this is better than Gloomhaven. I think that even though it is using dice and you're not using cards, so it's less Euro-y, it's more luck in it. You know, you're upgrading stuff. It's terrifying horror in terms of you've got this soundtrack, this weird banjo old west horror west kind of thing, and yeah, it's these disgusting things which we've had painted as well. And yeah, you're going around skirmishly attacking things and looking to beat the baddies and get a good score and deal with what's out there. It's really, really well done, and there's you can pay £700+ on different parts of this game. It's really good, and Flying Frog Productions is by far their best game. And as you can see, 8 out of 10. It's got a fantastically high rating. I highly recommend checking it out. So there we are, that's the next 25 done. Raced through them. I hope I didn't speak too fast. I hope it all made sense. And I hope you come back and check out the next set coming along. Well, thank you very much. All the best. Bye for now.